Hello everybody, Adam here, and before we get into today's episode, you may have noticed that it is not an episode of Shadows of the Jedi. Oh noes, what's going on? Well, I'll tell you. Due to some real life issues, we had to put a pause on recording Shadows of the Jedi for a couple of months. And though we are now back recording Shadows, I needed something to kind of bridge that gap so that I could get something out to you without any break in telling a story. Hence, Augury Investigations Incorporated, a little 3-part mini-arc with some very special guest voices. And after these, we will be back with Shadows of the Jedi. We hope you are not too disappointed and enjoy this pulp noir take on Star Wars, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I certainly had a lot of fun running it, my players seem to have a lot of fun playing it, and I hope you will have a lot of fun listening to it. Thank you very much for your forbearance. We hope you enjoy the show, and, well, you know how it goes. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm your host. And today's episode will be brought to you after these words from our sponsors.
Morgledem's Big Bacta Blowout.
Morgledem's Big Bacta Blowout.
We just received 10,000 gallons of Bacta and we're practically giving it away.
You got that right. We've got so much Bacta, you'll think you've just taken a 5-star vacation to Hetzel Prime.
We've got Bacta tanks.
We've got Bacta sprays.
We've got Bacta patches.
We've got liquid Bacta and solid Bacta.
Need a stim pack?
We got 'em.
And this weekend, with each Bacta purchase, you'll get a ready-to-wear Flex Poly Bacta suit.
It's puncture resistant.
One size fits most species.
So come on down to Morgledem's Big Bacta Blowout.
Morgledem's Big Bacta Blowout.
Morgledem's Big
Bacta
Blowout.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this very special and somewhat unanticipated mid-season interlude. My name is Adam, and today we're telling a slightly different story. You'll notice that I'm not Ed, so there's your first clue. This is a little one-shot, and I'm joined by some different voices, who I'm hoping will introduce themselves now.
Hi, I'm Mark, the producer and creator of Coruscant Nights and the Other Place podcast. And today I will be playing Gus, a former police droid from the streets of Coruscant who has made his way across the galaxy to help people find things that they're missing.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm not currently doing anything, but you can find me on previous episodes of this show, The Heroes of the Hiding Way, Flight Risk, and Silhouette Zero. I show up places. Today, I'm going to be playing Sean. He is a wayward Maribel youth who has been taken under the wing of Gus, who is probably trying to help him find purpose or something, important like that. But what does Gus know? He's old.
Harsh. Fair and true, but harsh.
Hi, I'm Lou. As well as being occasional voice here on Force Majeure, I tend to be a more prominent voice over on Dungeon Majeure. And today I'm playing Ruby, a Doug sleazy paparazzo.
Elmeron IV. A world where the rain never stops and the neon always flickers. Where crime lurks down every alley, the streets are mud, and the hearts are as dark as the hour before dawn. Where gangsters wear veneers of civility, and you're only as safe as your blaster can keep you. Where Imperials, rebels, and crime lords meet around tables to discuss who owns who, and the factories of the industrial district pump out clouds of smog into the sky like slumbering dragons.
The vampires of crime and industry can't exist without decent people to drink from, and the handful of commoners who call Elmeron IV home, the decent, the desperate, the despairing, know their only hope is a fleeting one, and the only justice they can expect is the one they pay for. And justice out here rarely comes cheap, and it certainly doesn't come clean. Enter Augury Investigations Incorporated, a private detective agency who investigate the crimes no one else wants to bother with. They look into murders, kidnappings, blackmail and theft, find missing people and pets, and turn over the stones that others want left well alone. They take on anyone prepared to take a risk to do what's right, and pay surprisingly well for this kind of work. Then again, when everyone's corrupt and the law is that of the jungle, some may consider it hazard pay. We start, as always, in the rain. Neon and hollow signs flicker in the eternal drizzle, casting shadows across the streets and buildings. Night has fallen, and a sickly yellow moon casts what light it can through the thick clouds that lie across the sky like they're trying to hide the sins of the city from the sight of the gods. We swoop through narrow streets, past a fresh corpse lying in the mud outside a dingy bar, and finally come to the fortress-like structure of Augury Investigations, a building of prefab plasticrete shipped in from the core worlds and reassembled like an island of righteousness in a sea of petty cruelty. The sign above the door crackles in the downpour, and we enter through the reinforced doors, past the bored-looking Syrian receptionist, and up the stairs to the office space above, where 3 operatives are filling the last of their paperwork and considering what to do with the rest of their evening. As they come together in the break room for one last cup of something strong before they head out into the dirty night, we see
a former Coruscant police droid, GU series. His formerly blue chassis has been sanded down, removing any remains of his Republic uniform. His eyes glow yellow. His hand rests on his hip as he oversees his ward, Sean. He's got a big blaster strapped to his hip, a pair of binders to the back of his belt. He's sort of thin, skinny droid with what looks like armor plating around his forearms and chest. Sort of a really kind of a buff protocol droid look. And he stands with authority.
Sean is still sitting at, it's probably not his desk, but it's somebody's desk. Probably the desk that, all the wayward, I don't actually do paperwork on the regular kind of person's desk. And he is sitting there trying to get things done officially because, part of being an adult is doing it correctly by the book so that people get off your back. But he sits there kind of like a puddle of shadow in his own pool of darkness, wearing completely just black clothing. It's all heavy, canvas, worn, and weathered. But if you look at it, you can see beneath the grime of the planet, there are a suspicious amount of studs and sort of chainmail effect at the seams. And you get the feeling that he listens to a lot of angry throat music.
Rec punk.
Yeah, rec punk.
He sits there, tongue poking out between spiked teeth, as he considers how to dramatically finish this last bit of paperwork so that he can throw it on the desk and storm out for reasons. What those reasons are, he's not sure, but he's gonna do it.
Lounging back as far as the chair will tip without tipping over backwards is a grey-skinned Doug with fleshy wattles hanging off of their chin, angry camel face, set in a thoughtful expression. Flicked up above their head is like a set of sort of highly engineered goggles, and in their like highly dexterous hand feet, they're just flicking a pen in between the knuckles, and sort of just leaning back and just musing over the events of the day. Well, Oh, I wonder how much he'll pay for seeing his wife go into the Golden Axial. Captain won't like that, but you know, if he can't keep his wife happy.
I think the calf pot that's been refilling itself automatically chimes with a ding, which is one of the few sources of hope on this planet. You know, that a fresh piping cup is ready and waiting for you. And as that breaks your various reveries, the comm in the room chimes. And the receptionist, Mavis Elantine Robantus Pulk, known as Mavis for short, much to her distaste, chimes through and over. We've got a new client come through, needs some help and is a little bit distressed. Is there anyone around still there that can take the case?
Ruby just looks over their shoulder to see if there's anyone else in the room.
Gus leans over the table and puts a hand on the comm. Yeah, there's a few people up here. Send them up.
Will do, I'll send them to briefing room A. Thank you.
Briefing room A. Who's coming with me?
Oh, well, it's going to take me a little while to sort these out, so yeah, I'm in.
Sean?
Sean slumps further into his oversized black coat, and you see his tail twitching beneath its long hem. It was a club night, but, you know, he can play his card games other nights. He does like the hunt.
Oh, Guz. Fine.
He schlumps somehow upward and slaps his paperwork on Guz's desk. Yes, I know it's Gus, but it's going to be Guz. And just keeps moving into room A.
You didn't sign this one. You're supposed to sign an initial. We'll get it later. It's not done.
I'll sign it when we're done.
Briefing room A is one of the smaller briefing rooms here. It's usually designed for single client cases, but a couple of investigators. There's Augury Inc. While it has money, it tends to invest its money in paying staff a living wage as opposed to keeping the premises spick and span and shiny. So the rooms are pretty basic. There is, the briefing rooms have tables, there's a couple of chairs that are moderately comfortable. Not wonderfully comfortable, but at least, the springs aren't poking out through the leather of the seats. They're not going to win any awards, but they do the job, and what's more, the ones for the clients tend to be slightly better, because they're the ones that are going to be paying the money, and they're the ones that you need to keep sweet. The door to briefing room A is still kind of swinging open. It's not an automatic door, it's on those kind of saloon door hinges where it can swing in and out, and you can see wet handprints on the outside as it's been pushed open. And through the glass on the outside as it's swinging back and forth, you can see a very dishevelled and somewhat distraught looking Fesliyan lady. Her long black hair, with a slight bluish purplish sheen to it, is slicked to her face from the rain outside and kind of slightly frizzy at the fringe where it's a little bit shorter. Her raincoat is plastered to her. Her umbrella has clearly given up the ghost a long time ago, and she's looking anxious and nervous and upset, kind of from the glimpses you can get through the glass.
Seeing how she looks, I think Gus would let his two companions enter the room while he goes off to get a blanket and returns quickly after.
Yeah, there are emergency blankets in the rec room, not too far from the calf dispenser. Elmeron IV is a wet planet, so having towels and things on hand is a staple of sense. So, while you're off grabbing that...
All right, madam, what can we do for you?
She kind of sighs somewhat with relief when she sees you two come in. There is a slight look on her face that you are perhaps not exactly what she was expecting when she came here, but nevertheless there is a look of relief. Even through the rain on her face, you can tell that she's been crying. Her eyes have that reddish tinge. Oh, she says, "Thank you. I just don't know where else to turn. It's my brother Dusko. He's disappeared, and I think he might have done something foolish or gotten in over his head, or I just don't know. It's very out of character. And she's pacing and wringing her hands as she's talking. She's not really looking at you, and again there's just the drip, drip, drip of the water as it kind of drips off the end of her coat.
Sean will wordlessly reach into his jacket into an inner pocket and pull out a black handkerchief and pass it across. And then he crosses his arm and he lurks in a corner leaning against the wall, which is fairly imposing because he's, in spite of being a kid, is still like 6 foot tall. He's still a big dude.
Gus enters with the blanket and gives it to this woman and offers her the seat that is here and sits across. I described Gus as like a buff C-3PO, but I think it's really C-3PO meets K2SO. So like he sits and his knees are just chest level.
She takes the blanket with gratitude, kind of dries her face off, again kind of wipes her eyes with the handkerchief, and then sits down. She seems a little wary at first sitting down, seeing how wet she is, and then she just kind of slumps bonelessly in the chair and is hugging the blanket. Yeah, I just don't know where else to turn. I mean, there's no police or law here, and even if there were, they're probably in the pocket of whoever, and I just don't know where else to turn. He's been missing 3 days now. He works at the Falasta Droid Works, and I don't think he's been there. I tried to speak to his boss. I mean, he fobbed me off, but he's not checked in. He's not been home, and the last I saw him, he said he'd stumbled onto something big enough that it'd make our fortune and get us off this force-forsaken mudball back into some form of civilization. He just needed time to find a buyer, he was saying.
So you said that you thought he'd been running with the wrong crowd?
He's always had friends that I don't think Mum or Dad would have approved of, you know? He'd been talking to some journalist as well. Some muckraker or other. I said that this new friend, like, I think he'd been giving this journo some tips, some insider knowledge from the Droid Works, you know? But he said that this was going to be his big break, that he had something for him, but nothing, and he gave me the journo's name, I think, but I can't remember it.
Did he say where this journo worked?
Yeah, the Galactic Reporter. Now, Lou, you will know the Galactic Reporter. It is a proper, sleazy, sensationalist rag. Sometimes it does break a good, meaningful story, but it does tend towards the take of breaks and the
Sun. It's the Sun.
I don't know what the American equivalents would be, but it's the kind of ones that that run puff pieces about what celebrities are wearing.
Okay, so it's celebrity faces, not like Bat Boy getting married, or
yeah, it's not Weekly World News. It's that kind of scandal. It's a scandal rag rather than the Weekly World News. And while
as I can tell, that's most magazines, but
yeah. And while it calls itself the Galactic Reporter, you're not going to go and buy a copy of this on Coruscant. You know, it's it's one of these ones that's amping its name up in order to try and make itself look more prestigious and trusted, but it's an outer rim tabloid.
So as this woman is looking disheveled and needs some comfort, I think I would like to try, and Gus would like to try to comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a big, heavy hand down on her shoulder, saying, "Do not worry, we will find your brother."
What's left of him.
She flinches as you say that, even though I imagine it's sort of sotto voce from Sean. It is still...
It's not a big room. Not a big room.
And Sean doesn't strike me as subtle.
If there's anything else you could tell us about this wrong crowd he was running with, that would be very helpful.
Well, he'd started drinking at the Dog Star. It's some seedy cantina on the border of the industrial district. You know, it's one of those places, you know, it plays loud, angry music, and There's always at least one fight a night. You know, the swoop bike gangers drink there. It's that kind of unsavory place. It'd be
Loud, angry music. Gus's head just turns towards Sean.
Yeah, you know the Dog Star. It's effectively, it's a punk and metal bar, but it's one where we have one in Manchester called the Salisbury, which is a great metal and rock pub, but it is also frequented by, our equivalent of the Hells Angels. It's that kind of... It might not be a biker pub, but bikers drink there because they are into loud metal and punk music. It's that kind of place. It's seedy, and if you spill someone's pint, you're probably carrying your nose home in a bag. But
if you get it back.
If you get it back, but the drinks are cheap and the music is loud and the bartender doesn't ask for ID. It's one of those places.
Okay.
In that case, Sean knows it well.
Yeah.
I will nod at Gus when he looks over, like, yeah, I know the place. We can talk when she's not here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's got himself a little apartment as well in Sunside. He only's been there about 6 months or so, and he won't tell me how he's affording the rent. We shared a place for a while, but he said he needed his own place. It wasn't right to be sharing. He needed his own space. I've got a spare key, and she fumbles in her pockets and pulls out an apartment key on a keychain that has like a Lucky Leppy's foot kind of thing on it. Not a full Leppy, that'd be horrific and fill the entire pocket. Like a Lego Morph's foot kind of keychain. Just a massive humanoid rabbit foot just out of her backpack. She carries.
It's actually almost the size of her torso.
So I can't lose it.
Yes, and it's like one of those hotel keys that just has the massive fob on it.
Yeah.
To stop you from losing it, which ironically makes it a lot easier to lose.
Yeah, I'm just going to backtrack this description a second. Having reached...
It's actually just a full radiator with a key on it.
Yeah, it won't slip out of my bag. Just an astromech.
Just take the whole bag.
Yeah, she pulls out of her pocket like a small key on a keychain. The keychain is in the shape of a kind of a brass cog stamped with the sigil, in Orabesh, Philaster droid works. And yeah, she scribbles down on a piece of flimsy plastic the address. Sunside, again, you will know, it's where a lot of the warehouse workers live. It borders the industrial district. It is cheap, boxy coffin housing.
Okay, so it's ironically named Sunside. It's not. When you said affording, I was like, is this going to be like the
high end,
nice Sunside, or is this going to be the? But okay,
the Little John Sunside.
Yes, but it's one step up from the kind of the main workers' accommodation in the industrial district. In that out here the air isn't quite as polluted. You do sometimes get to see the sky. You're less likely to get robbed going to the takeaway, whereas the main worker habs are proper. In Sunside, you are likely to have an apartment that has a separate, fresher and kitchen and bedroom, whereas the workers' accommodations are functionally those kind of coffin apartments otherwise. So it's definitely a step up from where a lot of workers live, and slightly more expensive, because you've got at least a little bit of acreage to move around in.
You have access to natural light.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, there are windows that aren't, bricked up.
Sean will step toward the table, still kind of schlumping. Did your brother have hobbies?
Not really. At the droid works, they work you long shifts, so he played some pool down at the Dog Star. He went to see a few gigs there, but nothing more than that, really.
Sean will nod and step back because he knows that people can be discomfited by his presence.
It's the teeth.
It's not only the teeth.
Ruby, Did you have any further questions?
So what's your brother's full name?
It's Dusko Grillen. And yeah, I'm Zat. And she smiles sadly.
Do you have a recent hollow of your brother?
Oh, yeah, of course. Then she goes back into her kind of purse and flicks through and pulls out a small... Again, it's kind of printed on flimsy plastic. It looks like it's taken on the Star Wars equivalent of Polaroid cameras and hands it over. And it shows her and another Fesliyan, a male this one. He has shaved he's shaved his temples and has effectively a power mullet, if you can imagine such a thing. His hair is the same kind of black with purplish blue natural highlighting in it. He looks a few years younger than her, probably very late teens, early 20s, in as much as you can reckon Fesliyan age. He's dressed a little bit similar to you, Sean, in that there's a lot of, it is clearly a band t-shirt with the sleeves ripped off for a rec punk band, which is black. He's wearing a black leather jacket with studs on the shoulders. He's wearing black jeans, or Star Wars equivalent of jeans, with chains hanging off.
Combat boots.
Are they jeans or are they Jinko?
What a Jinko. I only know Jinko as as from Sil Zero, and I'm like, you're not wearing Toydarian skin. That's horrific.
I can tell by Mark's reaction that this is a cultural divide, because Mark knows what I'm talking about. Jinko were part of the pop punk scene in the 90s, 2000s. They're basically pants that are almost two skirts instead of pant legs. They're just massive. They usually have lots of zips, sometimes chains.
We know them as bondage pants over here because of all the chains and straps. Yeah, really wide, almost like flare-ish, tend to have quite a low crotch.
They're like, take the width of a flare, but the whole leg.
Yeah.
Hot Topic sold
bondage
them.
pants.
Okay.
In the rock and metal subculture, that when I was growing up, they were bondage pants.
Yeah, so that style of thing.
Yes, yeah, more so that then, yeah. And like big Star Wars New Rock equivalent boots, that come almost up to the knee and have faux metal plating on the front of them. Yeah.
And the soles are actually like 2 inches thick, or they're made to look like they're 2 inches thick.
Yeah, and while his sister is smiling, he's doing like the devil horns and tongue thing,
Yeah, when Sean does that, he gets in trouble.
Yeah.
It's a lot more intimidating.
Yes.
Actually, is there any chance that Sean has seen him or recognizes like the band or anything?
Yeah. Now that you've seen the picture, you don't know his name. He's a bit of a poser, really. You're not sure whether or not he actually likes the music, because especially when it's really heavy going, he tends to sit at the back and winces a little when he thinks no one's looking. But yeah, you have seen him at a couple of the gigs you've been to and one or two of the bars you've been drinking at. You don't know him by name enough to kind of go and have a long chat with him, but you do recognise him from around.
Enough to do the half up nod kind of sup.
Yeah, exactly.
Game recognizes game, only because Sean's effectively 15. Pose recognizes pose.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
And what was his position in the droid works?
He's just one of the factory line workers. Ironically, it is cheaper to have people to assemble the droids than it is to have the droids assemble the droids.
And how long had he been working there?
About a year or so. He'd been getting into slicing from one of his friends, that kind of lifestyle, I think. I mean, you did ask if he had any hobbies. Maybe I should have said it then. I don't think it's so much of a hobby as like he was interested in it, but I don't think he was any good at it. He certainly didn't own a slicing rig or anything at home, last I saw. But yeah, he worked on programming some of the machinery and working on the assembly lines. So just a bit of kind of background knowledge, again, you would know this. Thalassa Droid Works is big. It is one of the first industries that properly invested in Elmeron IV, and is one of the ones that are trying to drive Elmeron IV from being effectively a dirty shadow port to being somewhere that people actually might want to visit and invest. It's not going to be, Navarro in the latter seasons of Mandalorian where it's suddenly happy and shiny, but they're trying to get at least semi-legitimate business in. That said, while they mostly supply and create accountancy, logistics droids, some astromech droids, that sort of stuff, they do mostly supply them to, Black Sun and Crimson Dawn. They're not shipping them into Corellia. It's that kind of place.
I was just going to say, Sean has sated and returned to his corner to skulk.
You've given us good information to work with. If you will leave a way that we can contact you with Mavis at the front desk, we will start our investigation.
Of course. Thank you all so much.
It is our pleasure.
And she stands up, releases the grip on the blanket, because in between kind of going in her purse and her pocket, her left hand has always had a white-knuckled death grip on this blanket. And she kind of puts the blanket down and looks a little bit embarrassed about how wet and rumpled it is, and kind of smooths it out a little bit on the side, kind of wipes her eyes again with the handkerchief and then hands it back to you, Sean, slightly sheepishly. And
he'll motion for her to keep it. I mean, it's a handkerchief. He's not,
She nods in gratitude and visibly fortifies herself and heads back out down. And you can hear her walking down the
Is
stairs.
the umbrella, all crinkled up or something? Can he pop it back into shape for her, or at least kind of shape?
Yeah, I reckon so.
He'll kind of, and it's kind of like malformed, but it still has the correct concave shape to do something.
Yeah. Again, she kind of smiles sadly in gratitude and hurries down the stairs towards Mavis. You can hear the doors opening and you can hear the muffled conversation start with Mavis at the front desk.
Well, chaps, we've got a few places to start.
Where would you say we should start? My money is on the apartment in Sunside, though I fear it has already been ransacked at this point.
Probably, but I think you're right.
Better to go now than give it more time.
Yeah. For anyone to take whatever is left that they haven't already found.
Besides, there might be snacks in his apartment.
I mean, almost certainly there's going to be something in there.
I'm hungry.
Well, no surprises there.
Are Doug Silhouette Zero, or are they just kind of stumpy?
They're not stumpy, they just walk on their hands, so they look half-sized, but actually if they stand up on their hind feet, they're sort of like,
Yeah, they're normal. They're still
They're still one. Okay. I was just laughing because, we've got the security droid who's probably, again, at least 6 foot or near.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sean who's 6 foot slumping in boots that are like the size of small children. And then we've got Ruby.
It's about waist high.
Yeah, when walking on their hand feet.
Doug are so cool. Okay, anyway.
They just don't make sense. Physiologically, they don't make sense, which is why I really like them.
Okay, so there are pool cars, I suppose pool speeders available in Augury. They are not luxurious, but what they are mobile and dry. So you can check one out to get around the city. So
Gus will check one out and toss the keys to Sean. Are you ready to practice?
Yes. I have been studying. Thank you, Guz.
And he clomps into the driver's side and he sits down and he goes to start it and then he's like, no, I'll get in trouble if I do it in this order. So he buckles himself in, he adjusts
the song.
mirror. He checks the side view mirrors.
Gus slowly nodding.
slides the chair right the way back.
Well, that happens before he gets in. He's like, okay, gonna make the room. Now we get in.
Ruby slides in the back. Like, champion.
Ruby's like, I am being chauffeured. This is the way it should be. All right, and then we start it up, and signaling appropriately, get into traffic.
Yeah, you head out into the evening. The rain continues down incessantly. The smog that is coming out as you get closer to the industrial district puts a thick kind of layer of smog and mist, and the lights of your speeder just about manage to cut through it. There's not a lot of traffic on the road as you're heading here. Most of it is much higher up in the sky as the kind of the freight speeders, you know, the big trucky type ones are heading overhead. The neon continues to crackle from the signs you go through. There are billboards advertising a range of services, all of which are unsavoury. And you finally make it into Sunside after about 10 or 15 minutes worth of negotiating through the densely packed streets, kicking up a contrail of mud as you go, because most of the streets aren't paved, because that costs money, and there's no one here to invest in that form of infrastructure, before pulling up outside the hab block where the address is. This is one of several hab blocks that rise up probably 30 or so stories up, which again, given the lack of bedrock and the fact that Elmeron IV is mostly mud, you imagine there was a degree of swamp castling going on to build structures this high. You know, the first one fell over, sank into the swamp, the second one fell over, sank into the swamp, the third one burned down, fell over, then sank into the swamp, but the fourth one, that stayed up.
That is sinking into the swamp.
Yeah. It's continuing, though, to sink into the swamp.
Yeah, eventually they'll just have to put new stories on top, because every once in a while there's a story subsumed.
Yeah. You can see they've kind of planned for this eventuality, because you would know that the lower down in the building you live, the cheaper the apartment. And also, on every story, there is a space in the wall that can become the doorway and entrance as it sinks down like a little deployable ramp. So, you know, they've invested in this gradually sinking into the swamp. The apartment, Grillo's apartment, is on the 8th floor. The 8th above ground floor. There are a few that have already gone below ground that are now. You can see that people have hastily been in and relabeled the lifts to, like, you know, it's now basement 3, basement 4. But he lives on the 8th floor above ground. And again, even for housing this cheap, that is not a cheap room. The elevator, being an elevator in a block like this, smells very much like you're in. The floor is slightly sticky and there is lots of tasteless graffiti on the walls. Some very anatomically improbable graffiti has been scrawled on the walls. And the elevator is slow and creaky.
Well, that doesn't go there at all.
I've seen many different things, and that is unique.
I mean, it's worth a go.
In the background, you see Sean very quietly scraping his own little bit of graffiti.
Yeah, the muck on the walls, yeah.
I don't know what he would have to have, like, some, I mean, he's like I said, effectively 15, so he's got to have some, like, ridiculously hardcore, try-hard hunter's mark.
Yes.
That he likes to put in places. So he just is just very quietly, very tiny little hunter's mark in a corner.
He's 15. His name's Sean. I'm picturing that S that everybody did.
Yes. It's like that, but with crossbones behind it or something.
Yes.
I'm also imagining that wherever we go on this planet, there is just like this mildew smell.
Yes.
That's just always present.
Yeah, nothing ever dries properly. And yeah, there's that faint kind of musty, mildewy smell.
Oh, the planet of Trenchfoot.
If you're lucky.
Only for people that can't afford to be chauffeured around in swoops, you know. The proper gangsters, they're fine. Their feet never get wet.
So you're like half a proper gangster. So in the background, scream.
Is there any sign of other people around? Is this building quiet? People are probably on their shifts and stuff.
Yeah, this time of day, it looks like a shift has the night shift has gone out and the day shift have already come back. There's enough signs of life to let you know that there are people around and in this building, but there's no one kind of loitering on the balconies or anything like that at the moment. You make it to the apartment room. The door is locked at the moment.
I take the key from out of my pocket.
Yeah. It swings open. Again, it's not an automated door. It's a old-fashioned kind of wooden, probably synthetic wood kind of push door.
Gus, as the designated shield, will go in first.
The apartment smells of teenage bachelor.
So, deeply unpleasant to most people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately familiar
Yes.
to Sean.
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, smells like home.
Yeah, it smells like home. It smells like the place somebody lives. Whatever.
It's hard to work out if this place has in fact been ransacked, or if Grillo is just naturally untidy. Because, yeah, it is a mess. There's lots of empty food cartons, some of which aren't quite finished yet, that are kind of scattered around. There's lots of empty drinks cans. There's a bin that's overflowing with crushed energy drink cans and cheap, with cider. Let's be honest here, drawing on my own youth. Probably like the Star Wars equivalent of Strongbow, kind of crushed up and overflowing the bin. There's lots of dirty clothes in piles that are scattered around.
I just want to take a moment to be offended for Sean, because this is mammalian stink.
Yes.
That's a different kind of stink.
It is fair, yes. Having a snake, it is a very different smell. Well, a bit more metallic for reptiles.
Yeah, it's a sharper kind of thing. I feel like mammalian stink is a little more general, and
yeah.
So it's a little offensive, thank you.
But no, a feline, though.
Yeah, feline are relatively reptilian.
Yeah,
so
but he's a young feline, so I feel like he's probably still figuring out the whole hormone thing.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be a lot of pheromonal backwash. I think is a disgusting term, but an appropriate one.
The whole room smells of, like, brute, or some
axe.
equivalent. There you go.
Lynx body spray.
Olfactory sensors powering down.
I'm not often envious of you, Guz, but now that would be nice.
There is a big TV here with a games console kind of hooked up. It's several gens old games console. It's not a cutting edge current gen one, with again piles of games that are mostly beat 'em ups, driving games, and first person shooters. It's enabled for HoloNet Play. There's a headset there, kind of scattered to one side. It is not quite a bed sit, but it's one of these ones where there is a small bedroom, there is a small fresher, and then the kitchen and lounge area are basically one room. So you have like the kitchen almost island that separates the sitting space from the cooking space. It's a small kind of self-contained. It's like a bachelor flat. So there's two hobs, a small oven, a microwave, a kettle, a fridge freezer that's again not massively big, and then on the other side of the island where you can kind of sit and eat your dinner or your breakfast, there is a ratty, beaten up couch with some springs sticking out of it, a desk to one side where there are a load of data slates and post-it notes and that sort of stuff kind of piled up, and then the couch is facing the console.
I'm going to wander over to the desk, rifling through the stuff on there.
Sean's going to wander over to the console.
I will check the bedroom.
So I will start with you then, Lou, rifling through the desk. So there are a lot of notes in there, kind of on the data slates aren't security locked. Yeah, bad security.
Look at this, anyone could get in this.
And reading through it all, effectively, there is notes about a suck fund. There is droid father, ? 3 underlines. The flimsy plast and the data slates, all these are kind of notes have been made on, all bear the logo of Philaster Droid Works, and it is very clear that he has nicked all of the stationery from work. On one of them it just has, in jagged handwriting and very deeply embossed on like the flimsy plast, it's clearly he's written this, or whoever's written this has done this in a real heightened state of fear or emotion. La Cogstra Nostra, underline, ? There is also a business card. It bears the logo of the Galactic Reporter, and it belongs to, it has the name and contact number of Mikaboosh Scatterban. You will know Mikaboosh, known as Mickey more commonly. He's an lean investigative journalist, and he is sufficiently sleazy that he makes paparazzo look like paragons of the community. This person will break any law, cross any boundary for a scoop. Consequently, he has, begrudgingly, gotten some really good stories in the past, real proper hard-hitting stories, but also he's one of the worst people on the bill of the Galactic Reporter. He is not a role model. On the back of that is written Dogstar, today's date, and a time which is subjectively from where you are in the story an hour from now.
It is soon, TM.
It is soon, TM.
Oh, damn it.
Mark, in the bedroom, he has clearly not changed the sheets for some time. They are all rumpled up. His clothes are in the corner. There's a kind of combo washer dryer Star Wars equivalent thingamabob, but the door is hanging off it. There are some tools next to it where clearly it looks like someone's had a go at trying to repair it, realise it's a bit too much work, and then decided just to let their clothes be dirty for a bit longer. It really has that feel. Tossing the room for more information, again, there are some bits of stationery stolen from the Philosopher Droid Works. There is also a note that says that Aline has a Dropbox. Where's he set it up? Or words to that effect.
Interesting. This place is disgusting.
Leslie, firing up the console, the last game he was playing is Honor's Bullet, a massively multiplayer online first-person shooter where you play glorious Imperial stormtroopers hunting down various insurgent factions who are threatening to overthrow the stability of the Empire. It's pretty good. You've played it yourself, you know. There's a wide range of characters and weapons. Yeah, it's propaganda, but you know, it's also really good fun. There's a lot of racism in there, usually coming from sweary young kids, all of whom have gamer tags that are frankly indecent. But you know, if you can get past that,
It's good for a night out.
yeah, it's good for a night
Or a
out.
night in, I guess.
Yeah,
When he doesn't have club or a gig that he's attending.
yeah,
Or when he really wants to annoy Guz.
yeah,
He'll play it without headphones.
yes, yeah.
So he would be looking to see if we have any friends or recent communications. He'd also be checking out kind of the seat. Because let's be honest, when you're playing a game, you don't tend to pay attention to throwing things away. So for anything that might have gotten lost in the cushions in that area.
I don't think there's anything significant that's been lost in the cushions. A couple of credits. There's a few death sticks, kind of half smoked, that have been put out and then kind of fallen down between the cushions. There is definitely like spilled Cheetos and that sort of stuff around. There's that miasmic haze of spilled snack food, and there are stains where clearly he's been drinking and then kind of spilled his drink while he's been playing, that sort of stuff. He's got a few friends on registered, but not many. There are a lot of chat logs, but they're all kind of skimming through the messages. They're clearly whoever he's been randomly partnered up for whatever mission he's been playing. You know, it's not like there's lots of cryptic conversations going on, and an awful lot of it, again, are swearing and abuse and that sort of stuff, some of which seems in more good nature than others. The friends he's got, none of them are currently online, but like their last played games seems to be similar stuff. And going off the gamer tags, they're probably of a similar age. There are giveaway signs that you know yourself from playing this sort of stuff online. Ultimate Kick Puncher 5 and that sort of stuff. And that is like the shared games they've been playing. There's been a lot of beat-em-ups, a couple of racing games, but mostly it's kind of this Imperial...
Can I tell how often he normally plays? Like, does he actually have a job?
He does, yeah. There are
Okay.
clear kind of sign-on, sign-off times going off like his achievement history and that sort of stuff. He does have a job. It just looks like most of the time what he does is he gets home from work, having grabbed some takeaway, then plays this for a few hours. He hasn't been on in 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and 3 days is when Zat said that she last saw her brother.
I found a note. Aline has a Dropbox. Does that mean anything to the two of you?
Well, it could be down to old Mickey. Found out which reporter he's been dealing with at the Galactic. Me old mate Mickaboosh. Mickey Two-Face.
Is Mikaboosh and Aline?
Yes. Sleazy little bugger. And it looks like they were supposed to be meeting up at the Dog Star in about an hour.
Is the Dog Star 1 hour from here?
It's about 45 minutes. Conveniently. Yeah.
Well, we should be able to get there with enough time to stake it out.
I know the place. I could help set up our choices. But I think I should be inside.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Do you have your comlink?
Sorry, I'm just gonna because this is noir. Adam, can I have a Dick Tracy comlink?
Yes.
It's legit like the risk communicator.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's got, the super dark, depressing stuff, and then he's got like the 80s calculator watch style comlink.
Nice.
So Gus asks, do you have your comlink?
Yes, Gus. I always have my comlink because you always have to know.
I am not your parole officer, but I might as well be.
That's what I was thinking.
We've also got some things here about a suck fund.
Only part of that laugh was in character. I'm sorry.
Something about a droid father. I don't know whether those two are related, but it might explain some of the graffiti. And something about a La Cogstra Nostra.
Does any of this gibberish sound familiar to us?
If anybody would like to roll me either a Streetwise or a Knowledge Underworld test. Streetwise will be 2 purple, Knowledge Underworld will be 1 purple.
I will roll Knowledge Underworld.
I will roll a Streetwise.
I will also do a Streetwise.
All right, so my Knowledge Underworld netted a single failure.
And Sean's Streetwise netted a single advantage.
I've got 2 successes and 1 advantage on my Streetwise.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, La Cogstra Nostra are a fairly new name that's been being whispered around the underworld. It is linked to a criminal enterprise that has started muscling into certain businesses in the industrial sector. They are the Robot Mafia. There are known to be a few enforcers, one of which is a modified lifting droid of some form that has big, strong clamps instead of hands. One of them is very handy with a vibro knife, and the third just shoots people, but is supposed to be like an astromech or a proto. One of those kind of unassuming droids. They are very much the subject of rumours. Not many people seem to have had a proper encounter with them, but it is a name that started being bandied around as a new up-and-coming criminal force.
Looks like old Dusko might have got himself mixed up with the wrong people. Or should I say the wrong droids?
Droids are people.
Yes. But, in a slightly different, more mechanical way.
We'll talk about this later.
I will find myself elsewhere for that conversation.
Is there anything you can think of that you'd like for your advantages at the moment? Or do you want to bank them?
We bank that for the stakeout.
For my advantage, I don't know anything firsthand, but I know somebody who knows somebody, like friend at the bar that hears everything, that kind of jazz.
Yeah, it's a name that you've started hearing around a little bit from friends that again border the industrial district in some of the bars, especially the ones where the swoop bike gangers go drinking. And I think as you leave the apartment, locking it up behind you, get into your speeder and head back out into the rain and the darkness of the night towards the Dog Star and a date with Destiny, that is where I'm ending the episode.
Has she ordered the lobster?
Yeah, and a blind date with Destiny, and it looks like she's ordered the lobster. Yes.
By the way, Guz is driving because Sean found a bag of Cheetos.
You don't know where those Cheetos have been.
Yes, I do. I found them under the couch. They were still sealed.
Crunch, crunch, crunch. They're barely past their best by date.
But yes, that is where I'm going to end the episode for this week. Thank you very, very much to my players as always. Hope you're having fun. Thank you to my listeners. I hope you are also having fun. And we will see you all next time.
Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Edge Studios. Our intro music is by the amazing Sly Fox Audio. Check out more of her work at soundcloud.com/SlyFoxAudio. Our outro music is Suburban Outlaw instrumental version by Forget the Whale, used with gratitude under a Creative Commons license. Many of the sound effects and soundscapes are created using Sirenscape, because epic games need epic sounds. If you're enjoying the show and want to support us, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod, where for as little as $1 a month you get access to outtakes, adverts, various other stuff, and my fortnightly ramblings. You can drop us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod, or you can leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to interact with us, there's a few ways you can do that. We are on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter as @ForceMajeurePod, and we're over on Mastodon as @ForceMajeurePod at dice.camp. You can also join our Discord, link in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening and being with us as we tell these stories. We hope you are having fun, and we will see you next time.